Okay, so today, my name is Ed Dean. I'm a consultant at IBIS Inc., and today we'll be discussing Management Reporter 2012. We'll go through a bit of the basics, what it does, general navigation, and then we'll go into a demo of creating an income statement that is drillable and that takes advantage of account categories set in GP. As a general introduction, Management Reporter is a real-time financial reporting application used to create, generate, secure, and publish reports. So some general reports that most people use this for: profit and loss statements, balance sheets, cash flows. You can do lots of different reports with this program, and like I said, we'll be going through an income statement towards the end of the presentation. It has the familiar Microsoft Office format with the file menu and everything up top. You'll notice once we go into the program that it looks quite familiar to all the other Office applications. So it's comprised of two components. You've got your server side and your client side. So on the server side, there's a process service and an application service that are both installed, as well as your Management Reporter database that resides on the server. We'll be talking more specifically about the client side. This has two components: the report designer, where you'll create your reports, and the report viewer, where you're obviously viewing your reports. And the report viewer can be desktop or web-based. So here's the report designer window. We're just going to go through the general elements of this. So at the top, you'll see a 1. This is your ribbon that many Office users will be familiar with. Your number 2 is the report definition button is selected. So that's where you can choose your reports, generate reports, and change anything on your report definition. Right below that, the row definition specifies the contents and the layout of the rows on the report. Same thing with the column definition below that. It'll specify the contents and layout of the columns. Right below that is the reporting tree definitions. That defines the structure and the hierarchy of your organization. So this will provide reporting at a unit level or a summary level, and we'll show you that during the demo. Report groups right below that allow a user to generate multiple reports at once. If you find yourself having to generate the same reports at one time, you can just put them all into a group and generate them all at once. Report schedules allow you to schedule a single report or a group of reports that we just discussed to be generated on a regular basis at a defined time interval. And finally, there's security. Basically, Management Reporter has 4 different security roles: administrator, designer, generator, and reviewer. The names there are pretty self-explanatory on what they're able to do. Administrator has all rights to designer and viewer client side apps. But specifically, there's 2 types of security, one in report designer and one in report viewer. The designer security, you can restrict access to companies, building blocks, which would be like row and column definitions, and then you can restrict access based on the reporting units in the reporting tree that we just discussed. And then the other aspect is the library security, where you can restrict access to folders of reports, reports themselves, or groups of reports. Okay, so here's the report viewer aspect of the client. And here at the top in the 1 box, we've got a couple options here. You can link to external files on a report. You can change the library permissions that we just discussed. You can copy a link to the report, and then you can delete, rename, or move the report itself. And then right below that, the 2 box is just the main area pane where you're going to select the report you're wanting to view. So once again, in the report viewer, here's some more options. The first box is your distribution options. So you'll see you can distribute it as an Excel document, an XPS document. You can print it or you can email it. The second box is for comments. So in any of the areas on your report, you can add comments to your report. Once there's comments existing in your report, you can copy those comments to another report. And then the I am button is if your company uses Microsoft Link as a communication tool. Management Reporter does connect with Microsoft Link, is able to, so you can IM somebody if you have that functionality installed. And then right below that, the main area, the 3, that just shows, that's just where your report is generated and you can view it. Okay, the final portion before we get to our demo is going to be the drill down functions that are available in the viewer program. So here, if a value is selected that contains further information, the drill down button, the number 1, is available, and within the report viewer program you'll be able to drill into more specific information about that number. You'll notice that there's another drill down button called Dynamics. This is going to bring you into the corresponding inquiry window within Dynamics GP. We'll go into this, and you're allowed to do that if certain circumstances are met with the report, which we'll go over right now. So the circumstances you have to meet in order to drill down into the Dynamics is obviously you need GP installed in the first place. It needs to be started, and a user has to be logged into the company, the relevant company that they're drilling into. Management Reporter must be installed, and there's 2 ways to install it, the Data Mart way or the Legacy. It must be, we're not going to go into the installation here, but just for your information, it's got to be installed using the Data Mart integration adapter in order to drill down into Dynamics. The last couple, the report's got to be generated as a financial account or a financial account and transaction level. Must be generated in a report viewer and must be at the account level of detail before you're able to drill. And we'll go over all this when we do our demo. So now we're going to do the actual creation of an income statement. This income statement, we're going to make sure it's drillable so I can show you what we just went over. And we're going to base it off the account categories found in GP. So this is on your account card setup. There's a category option where you can label an account as, for instance, cash or long-term receivables or depreciation expense, what have you. And we found that not a lot of clients take advantage of this way to build reports. It really cuts down on the time taken to build reports when you have them labeled in the categories, as you'll see. And just a quick note here, currently, changes made to account categories, say account, you change it from an administration expense to a depreciation expense, that change will not be reflected without going through a number of resolution steps currently. They're probably too technical to go through during this presentation, but I was in contact with the people who created Management Reporter, and they said the next Management Reporter update, which should be out within a month, will resolve this issue. So that's just a general note there. Okay, so let's go ahead and open up Management Reporter Designer. So as you can see, it looks like my screenshot here. At the top, we've got our familiar office type setup. And here we've got our report definitions pane open. So the general order in which you want to create these reports is, I like to create the row and the columns first, and then if you want a reporting tree, you do that, and then you create the report definition itself last, because within that report definition you have to define your row and column definition. So let's do that. I already created a skeleton for us in our row definition, called it IS training. So here, this is our row definition. It shows what's going to be on the rows and like which data it pulls. So here we've got a blank row. I just wanted some space there, and the format code here for a blank row is just a description so that it knows this is not kind of a calculation or anything. You'll notice that you can still format just like in Microsoft Word. I formatted this to be blue and bold. This left format code is a title code. So this is what we're going to use as our title, and it's going to be on the left side of the page. So once again, these are descriptions right here. Now sales is when we're getting into actual information that we're going to want to pull from our financial dimensions. So here I've set up the first two. Link to financial dimensions. If you double click it, you've got 4 different ways that you can filter these results. So you can do it by division, account, or department. These are our different segments of our account. Also, but what we're going to use is our account category. So like I said, these are set up in the account cards within GP. All you have to do is you can pick an individual one or an entire range. So here, if you use the lookup button, you'll see all these account categories that are in descriptions that are easily understandable. So for our sales, we're obviously going to want to grab just the sales. So this is just our individual sales category, and we click OK. So now we've got our sales defined. Sales returns and discounts is the exact same, as well as other income. So other income right here. Click OK. Cost of goods sold is the exact same way. Okay. Now we've got our sales area of our income statement. Since sales are normal, their normal account balance is a negative and expenses are normally positive, we would rather have those flipped and have sales be positive and expenses be negative. So in order to do that, you just change this normal balance column to a C for all relevant calculations. So we're going to want all these to flip the signs. This one right here is just a page break. There's several different page break formats you can use. I'm using the single underscore right there. Now we have a calculated column, our gross profit, which is going to be all these sales items minus our cost of goods sold. Since there are different signs, though, it's going to be it's going to be an addition calculation. So there's 2 ways to do this. You can do a total or a calculation. As you can see, this calculation one will be for more complex calculations. So we're just going to do a total for this one. And in the next column is where you'll identify what it's totaling. So as you'll see on the left here, we've got our row codes is what we use to define where we're grabbing the information from. So this, we want to total everything from row 190, which is sales, to row 280, which is the cost of goods sold. So that's going to give us our gross profit right there. Once again, some page breaks, some descriptions. Let's go ahead and add our selling expense the exact same way as everything else. And the administrative expense, and as you can see, these are ordered by alphabetically. Page break, now we got another calculation here. So the total operating expense is just going to be the total of our selling and administrative expense. So let's use another total calculation. We'll get to the this calculation in a second. So these are going to be row 490 through row 520. So operating income is going to be our gross profit minus our total operating expense. So let's use a calculation column on this one. So for calculation columns, to identify that you're saying you want a row instead of just the number value itself, you have to put an @ sign before the row. So this is going to be at row 340, which is our gross profit, minus our total operating expenses, which is at 580. Okay, so let's continue adding these account categories. This is depreciation expense. And amortization expense. And other expense. Now you should be able to notice that this doing it by account category is much easier than adding ranges of general accounts. If we were to try to add ranges, let's go down to interest expense here. On the account level, we would have to go through a number of accounts and figure out which range corresponded to our interest expense. Rather than doing that, when you just set up your accounts in general, it's a good idea to add the account category there. It'll save you a lot of time in the end. So let's do our interest expense. And finally, our tax expense before we get to our final calculations. Okay, so now we have all our account categories set. We just need to finish off these calculated columns. So we've got our operating income. Next is total expense, which is going to just be all our operating expenses plus these three expenses that we've added here. Let's use another calculation. So total operating expense is the 580 row. Remember, we got to use the @ sign so it knows it's a row, not a number itself. We're going to add the depreciation expense, the amortization expense, and finally the other expense category, which is row 760. Okay, so we've got total expenses there. Earnings before interest and taxes, that is also going to be a calculation, just our gross profit minus the total expense column we just calculated. So gross profit is at 340, and our total expense is going to be at 820. We've got our interest expense there and our tax expense already, so our earnings before taxes, another calculation, at 880 minus, no, plus at 1,000. Our tax expense is done. And our final calculation is our net income, which is simply our earnings before taxes minus taxes. So that's at 1,000 plus at 1060. Okay, so now we've got our complete income statement. Oh, and let's show you that you can obviously change this formatting. Let's make it look like the revenues section, be bold and gray. So now we've got our row definition set up for an income statement based off of our account categories set up in GP. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to want to figure out how our columns are going to look. So let's save that. Oh. Let's change this to a total. Okay, so we saved that. Now let's go to our column definitions and create a new column definition. Since this doesn't take nearly as much time as the row definition in terms of skeleton and just the general descriptions, I haven't created one yet, so let's create one from scratch. So all you do is go to the top, go to new. Okay, so our first column, we just want the description of our account that we set up in our row definition. So this is obviously just going to be description. Column width, that's set for you automatically. You can also choose auto fit if you'd like. Our header. So next we're going to define what are the columns going to be. Okay, so the first column we want is just the actual amount for the period that we choose. We're going to want that to link to our financial dimensions because we want them to actually pull the value from GP. You can see it defaults in the rest of the things. The defaults, what it gives is actually what we want, but we'll do some year-to-dates in the next columns to show you the different options available here. So here, fiscal period, fiscal year is the base, period is the base, and these bases are defined when we do our report definition. And the periods covered is periodic. Once again, the column width, you can change that to auto fit if you like. So here we're going to add a year-to-date column because that's pretty common. Also from the financial dimension, and you'll see it defaults in the same thing, but we don't want it to be periodic because we're looking for year-to-date here. So if you click the periodic button, you can see there's 4 options, and we're going to want to choose the year-to-date option. We'll keep the column width. It seems to be fine. As a comparison, you might want to compare it to the previous year's year-to-date. So let's go ahead and put that one in so I can show you how to change the period that it's covering. Once again, we're going to want to change this to year-to-date, but rather than the base fiscal year, since it's previous fiscal year, we're going to want to do base -1. So that'll give us our base year defined the year before the base year defined. So that's pretty much general column definition. Let's go ahead and save that. It's IS training. Okay. The next, I'll show you guys reporting tree definition. We don't really have all that much time to go into building the reporting tree definition, a complex one at least, but I can at least show you the general idea. So this is going to define your hierarchy for your organization. That way you can run reports based off of a certain division or department, or you can just run it at the summary level. The best way to start this is to go to Edit, Insert Reporting Units from Dimensions, and choose how your hierarchy works. So here it's grabbing, we're going to want to grab the division, and we'll say that's a higher level than the department. So here the hierarchy goes division and department. You can also limit which it pulls in, but we're going to have it pull in all of them. So we'll leave these from and to dimensions blank. If you click OK, it's going to populate all these columns for you based off what you just chose. So here you can see the division 000. Within the division there are these departments. Same with administration. Within administration, according to our accounts in GP, there's this department only. Same with all the others. So that's just a general reporting. We'll use one when we generate this income statement just so you can see the options you choose when you generate the report based on the reporting tree. So we don't need to save that. I've already got a test one there. So the last thing you do for an income statement would be to set up the report itself. So let's do new. Okay, we're going to base it off our to company. Now this detail level is important as related to our drill through. As I mentioned before, in order to create a drill through statement, the report must be generated as a financial account or financial account and transaction level. You set that here. So let's go to the financial account and transaction level of detail. We're going to do our posted activity only. You can include other currencies. This is where you define your bases, like we saw in the column definition. So I know, since we're using Fabricam, I know they have information in the 2017 year. So here, this is why we built the row, columns, and trees first, because you have to define these within the report definition. So our income statement that we made, IS training, we saved that earlier. Our column definition, also IS training. And we'll go ahead and choose a tree type. Reporting tree, the test reporting tree I made, which was pretty much the exact same as what I showed you. We'll leave the starting unit blank. So a couple more tabs here. Output and distribution, this is obviously where you're going to find how the output's going to behave, where it goes. You can generate it to a single location or multiple locations. And then there's some just general options, including headers, footers, fonts and shading, general things like that. Here you can define some variables for your headers and footers. So one of the often used things in this area would be to add a company logo or something to the report. So let's just show you that. We'll say we want it in the first section of the header. I've got an IBIS image here. I know it's quite large, so we're going to make it 35% scaled. And you just hit the insert button. So here you'll see IBIS first section of the header. You can also insert auto text like these predefined ones. Some people like to insert some page number auto text at the bottom. So you could do page number out of however many pages. So that pretty much covers the headers and footers tab. The final tab here is some general settings. Whether you want it to round. This calculation priority, it defines whether you want the row to trigger first or second. So this is important sometimes if you have a calculation on columns and rows and those two calculations intersect. Usually you'll want the row definition to take priority over that. And in that case, that would mean you would want the row to perform the calculation last, because it would override what was done on the column calculation. But we'll leave that for now. Here's the processing order. We're also going to leave this, but you can change how it processes. We're going to select our reporting units at runtime. You'll see that option in just a second. And these general things, using parentheses for negative numbers, etc. So we've got our report defined. It's rows, it's column. We've defined our reporting tree, given its base period, and everything we need to do. So the only thing that's left is to generate the report up here. Oh, and before I do, some general navigation. When you're in a report definition, you can drill down, you can easily get to your corresponding row definition and column definition by using these buttons up here. So see, it'll automatically open that. Let's go back to the report though and generate it. So here's where our reporting tree comes into play. Here you can choose at what level you want the report to display. We're going to leave it at the summary, but it's just important to note that you can do it more detailed. And also these can be restricted by our security tab on who can view which departments, etc. You might not want people to be able to view the administration division of the company. But for now, we're going to choose summary. So here's your report queue status. If you click the refresh button, you'll be able to see anything that it's processed. But depending on how large the report is, the processing time should not take very long. So what it does is opens up the report viewer program, which I discussed during the PowerPoint. And here you'll see the data of the report we just generated. Here's our little logo that we added to our header. Here, these three are also the things defined in that header section of the report definition. And finally, we've got our column definition here. We've got our actual year to date and our previous year to date. And then everything else is pretty much on the row definition that we set up. So, as you can see here, our distribution options. But what I really wanted to focus on here in the viewer is our drill down options. So since we did pick at the transaction level for our generation, we are able to drill down into this document. So let's say we're confused about this administrative expense. We need to see where that's coming from. We can drill down into the viewer further by clicking that drill down button. We can also let's go ahead and open up on the other one I saved. So here's one, pretty much the exact same of what we just did. Let's generate that. Oh, wrong year. Okay, so opens up the viewer. So here, now that we've got a account level, we've got the option, the dynamics option, drill to dynamics. So here it's going to open the corresponding inquiry window so we can see what's going on with this account right here, 561.50. So let's use that button. So if we go now into dynamics, we'll see it opened up for us our detail inquiry from the GL side of the account that we just drilled into, and it shows that exact journal entry that we drilled into, the $15. So that's a good, easy way to figure out where these numbers are coming from. And like I said, there are some qualifications on when it will let you drill down, but once those are met, it's a very useful option. So that pretty much covers the creation of an income statement from scratch, and the general navigation of Management Reporter, as well as the drill through to dynamics. Okay, well, you know, you might think of something that you neglected to ask right now, and that is okay. We have additional, you can send additional questions to info@ibisinc.com. Or you could send it to me at edean@ibisinc.com. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have regarding Management Reporter. So if nobody has any questions, thanks for your time and enjoy the rest of the day.